I'm Gabby.
And I'm Maddy.
And you're listening to the Jukebox Honeys podcast, where we talk about all things 60s, 70s, and 80s music related.
Follow us at the Jukebox Honeys on all social media platforms and add us on Spotify to hear our weekly episodes.
They just can't start with that.
Oh my god.
They did so much drugs.
Yeah.
So many drugs. Queen, iconic band. Rock and roll is definitely the best. The best.
Out of everything, like at least they play instruments. That's what I like.
Friggin' love ABBA!
Yeah.
Mamma Mia!
Here we go again.
Stevie Nicks
is the most iconic queen. And I love her relationship with Harry Styles.
And I love that she's a witch and everyone accepts it and thinks it's cool.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, it's just completely different. She's never cared. Landslide will always be my favorite.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Jukebox Honeys podcast. My name is Gabby, for those who don't know.
And I'm Maddy.
And this week, if you couldn't tell by some, I don't know, maybe you just couldn't tell. Maybe it's not obvious by the witch hats and the spider webs. Oh, that definitely got caught in my finger.
Spooky season.
It's spooky season, and by the time you're listening to this, it's 2 days before Halloween.
Yep.
Fun times, except kind of different this year because of quarantine.
Yeah, you have the right to choose in our province of what you want to do or not. They said that it's not completely banned, but it's not recommended.
Yeah, it's not encouraged, but that doesn't mean you can't celebrate the spooky season at home with candy and scary movies, or you just have fun. So we decided this week to kind of celebrate it our own way, and we thought there was nothing better to talk about than Fleetwood Mac and Stevie Nicks, who may or may not be one of these special ladies here. A witch. She may not be a witch. She may be a witch. Or Maddie's going to talk about that a little bit later. But we thought it would be fun to talk about Fleetwood Mac because it's one of our favorite bands. And it has a little magical side to it and a little spooky side to it, with Stevie maybe being a witch or maybe not being a witch.
Well, she definitely denies it, but we kind of get into the speculations around that.
Yeah, for sure. And so yeah, we thought it would be fun to talk about Stevie and Fleetwood Mac. And let's just start off by saying they are a very dramatic band.
Yeah, definitely. They're very dramatic when it comes to their music and just their personalities as well.
And their relationships and just everything. They're very dramatic. So it's kind of fun to research because I like reading about drama. I hate being involved in drama. So
yeah, definitely.
It was very interesting, and we watched a lot of documentaries and obviously listened to their music because it's amazing.
Yes, definitely one of our favorite bands, if not the favorite.
Yeah, I don't think I can choose a favorite.
Really?
It's like choosing a favorite child.
No, I can choose. It's they're definitely in my top 3, that's for sure.
Yeah, for me too.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like I cannot choose. I feel like
they're just so different than any other band. They're just their sound to it, their voices to it. Stevie's voice being a little bit more raspier.
Very inspired by Janis Joplin, and she'll tell you that herself. So yeah. We're going to just wrap up this little intro, and we're going to get started talking about Fleetwood Mac, their history, how they started, how they rose to fame, their many breakups, their somewhat back together and how they're doing now, and then obviously some witch theories about Stevie Nicks. So
to end it off with a kind of spooky aspect.
To end it off with a giant scare. So,
oh, good God.
I tried to be a witch.
Oh, yes.
Well, we
don't even have to try. So.
Oh, thank you so much. I love that. So if you want to keep listening, or if you want to know more, keep listening, and we're going to start right now. So let's go. So, kind of how they started, Fleetwood Mac is originally a British band who would later become kind of Americanized, and it started actually with Mick Fleetwood, obviously who the band is named after, John McVie, I think it's McVie. Yeah. Peter Green, and Jeremy Spencer. Later, the band would include Danny Kirwan, Christine McVie, who is John McVie's wife, Bob Welch, Lindsey Buckingham, and of course, the queen herself, Stevie Nicks. The original members of the band first created more bluesy music. If you listen to like their very first albums, it's very, very different.
Yeah, I remember actually I work with a guy and he's from Welsh, and he just played me the song. I was just like, what is this? This is a band. He's like, this is a band you know. And I said, no, it's not. Like, this is not a band I know. And he's like, yes, you are. You said it was one of your favorites. And he told me who it was. He said it was Fleetwood Mac before Stevie and all that. So
yeah, Stevie and Lindsey Buckingham definitely brought a new feel to the band and more like rocky, punky, pop kind of style of music. So their first successful album, Albatross, was big in 1968. Eventually, the band would move to the United States in 1974 and would add Buckingham and Nix. Buckingham and Nix were a band on their own and kind of sweet. They're high school sweethearts. They were together. They were in love. And Fleetwood Mac was actually just looking for a lead guitarist because one of their band members had recently left. So through just like the scene and talking to people, they learned about Lindsey Buckingham. And they were like, hey, can you join our band? And he's like, you know what? I can't. Like, if you don't take Stevie, I'm not going. And it's a package deal. So they ended up taking Stevie too. And it's probably one of their best decisions they've ever made. Mick would say, like, I'm so glad we brought both of them on because, like, imagine.
I can imagine it without Stevie.
Without Stevie. It's crazy. So the new band members, together, they wrote the breakout album Fleetwood Mac in 1975. It was released. And Rhiannon, the iconic song Rhiannon, which I covered on our Instagram, Facebook, just a little snippet of it. Obviously not as good as Stevie, but did a little cover of that. But Rhiannon was the first single from the newly improved band, and it made people take an interest. It definitely kind of hit the American music scene versus just the British scene, and it was very different from what, obviously, the original Fleetwood Mac had put out.
The sound was completely different. You wouldn't even guess that, like I said before, the two bands were even connected.
Yeah, 100%. After this hit album, the band felt very pressured to follow it up with an even better one. But in their personal lives, they were actually going through a lot of issues. A lot of issues. So, John and Christine McVie had gotten a divorce. Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham had broken up, and the two couples kind of switched partners and intertwined with everybody, and it was a big mess.
Big mess. But honestly, you see that happen more and more. Like, you wouldn't expect those things to happen, but those dramas do. Like, because you're so close with these people, you're working so close with these people, and things just, people get intertwined, and I guess that's why, because people are just so sociable with one another, and you start to know other people.
Yeah, it's because you're with them. It's kind of like just you're with them all the time. And when they were writing Rumors, they were in a little recording studio in Sausalito, California. And I think it's California. Don't quote me on that. But the city is Sausalito. And I saw like a little documentary clip about where they actually recorded Rumors. And oh my god, it is so tiny.
So small.
It's a small room. Stevie said that there was only like a couch that sat 3 people and a chair. And they all had to like cram in there, and
they got to know each other, so.
They got to know each other very well, but just, I can't imagine going to work with your ex every single day for 10 hours a day and
performing like nothing happened, basically still having to have a chemistry somewhat as well.
That's... And while Mick Fleetwood, he obviously didn't have a partner in the band. His wife actually would have an affair with one of his best friends. And obviously he was sleeping around on his wife too.
As well, but it's just funny how that all happens and how there's all these scandals and stuff, but at the same time they still kept the band so, like, the music first.
Yeah.
And I remember Stevie saying that. It always was the music first. We're not going to even though we're breaking up, we're not going to let this band get affected because of our relationship.
Yeah, 100%. And it was really odd because I watched this documentary about the making of Rumors, and Mick Fleetwood said that he's actually glad his friend had an affair with his wife because in a weird way, he didn't want anyone else to, like, do it. He'd rather his friend do it. And I was like...
That's so odd, though. that's just me, but I'm a jealous girl. And if you ever touch my man, I'm coming at you. Like, I'm coming at you with full force. I don't care if I've known you. I don't care if you're my cousin. I don't care if do not touch my man.
Yeah, but he was like, I'm kind of glad it was my friend.
Yeah, that's weird.
Anyway. The band began consuming a lot of drugs, which is like we talked about in our last episode. They consumed the drugs to kind of keep them going and keep them awake for so long and keeping them on that creative mindset.
It's crazy how bands do that. They need to keep going with the drugs and stuff just because they don't feel like they can even obtain that amount of success.
Yeah, it's definitely true. So the band had to, obviously, they were consuming a bunch of drugs to almost like be able to stand each other. And, but all this trauma and all this drama and all this drugs and all that stuff would end up resulting in like their most famous album ever. I would say Rumors.
I feel like it hits though when you do take all these drugs. Well, they weren't taking, I don't know if they were, but hallucinogens. It was mostly cocaine and stuff.
It's mostly cocaine, yeah.
But it's funny how this alters a whole creative side that the brain we can't even comprehend, and that's when the most successes come from those kind of experiences.
Yeah, it's really odd, but it works, I guess. Since the album reached so much commercial success and at the same time resulted in so much personal strife, we thought it would be really interesting to kind of talk about each song on the album. And this album actually won them a Grammy, so I think it's pretty important in their career, and each song deals with just the pain of the person who wrote it, and it's just very interesting to talk about. So we're going to talk about every song on Rumors. Alrighty, so the first song on the album is I Don't Want to Know, and it was written by Stevie Nicks. It actually was a second choice to the song Silver Springs, and she had written Silver Springs while she was on tour. She saw the name of the city, and she said that that's kind of how, like, if songs are named after places, she really has to, like, love the place and have good memories, and I guess Silver Springs brought up really good memories for her. But
it's funny though, because some people say the opposite, that it's like a bad experience they need, or something that traumatic that happened in order to write about it, but she needs a good one. So
but Stevie herself will tell you that she's very picky about like people cutting up the time of her song. So if the song is like 6 minutes and they want to cut it down to 4 to fit on the record, which was something they actually had to consider back in those days, because each side only held 24 minutes, right? So they were like, Stevie, we don't have enough time for Silver Springs, so can we do I Don't Want to Know? And she's like, well, if you're going to cut up Silver Springs, I'm not, like, I can't. Like, that's my baby. You can't cut it up, so we'll do I Don't Want to Know. The song was replaced, obviously, with I Don't Want to Know. And in the end, she was glad that that specific song replaced Silver Springs. And she actually enjoyed playing it with her ex, Lindsay. She said that was one of the songs that they jammed the best to.
They were definitely connected, even though they broke up. She still says to this day, I'm still connected to him so much.
Well, I think if you go through all that with someone, like, it's hard not to be connected to them somehow. It's hard to just break that bond. And they're still working together after so many years, right? So it's just, you're always going to be a part of each other's life. There's no way you can get out of it, unfortunately. So the next song is Dreams. Probably one of my favorite songs.
Me too.
And Stevie Nicks wrote this song in another room away from everybody else, in a separate room in the studio. The song was about her breakup with Lindsey Buckingham, but she was not ashamed to share it with the rest of the band. She wanted, like, her feelings to be known, I guess.
That's good. And it's, like, one of the most successful, and coming back on TikTok and all that.
Yeah, and she actually has commented about it, saying, like, she's really grateful for the resurgence and for the new generation to kind of get to know their music. So yeah, it's really interesting that she's not like, oh, these Gen Zs are using my music. She's actually pretty grateful for the resurgence of the song. But anyways, she believed that her ex, Lindsay, had a way of taking her songs and almost making them better, and she felt like he was one of the only people who could do that.
Yeah, especially with this song, because it's so personal in their relationship as well. Yeah.
The song was about the band going through their struggles, but it was a very optimistic outlook of the band. And then in the documentary that I watched, she was quoted as saying, Dreams was hopeful. It saw the breakup coming, but we were hopeful that we would be okay. Unlike Go Your Own Way, which we'll talk about later. which was not hopeful that we would be okay. That was the thing Lindsay and I argued about. I tried to be somewhat optimistic in my songs, somewhere to pull a ray of light out of the tunnel. So.
She's such a positive person, and I think that's why even in the previous song you said that she has to have a positive place to write about her song. She's just so positive and optimistic about everything.
Yeah, I think it's because she's been through a lot in her life, and she's a very spiritual person. She tries to just find the positive in anything, and she will talk about like her abuse with drugs, and she'll be like, yeah, all that stuff happened, but I'm glad that it made me the person that I am today. And
it's always so positive, and
I just love her.
Yeah, me too. It's a great way to look at life, and I think that a lot of humans should look at it that way. Mm-hmm. But we tend to not, because we tend to be negative beings a lot of the time.
Yeah, it's very true. The next song is Never Going Back Again, and it was written by Lindsay. And at the time, he and Stevie were officially broken up, but he had created a relationship with another woman. And the relationship, he said, obviously didn't go anywhere. It didn't last. But in that moment, he realized, hey, I can get over Stevie, and I can move on with my life. She'll always be a part of my life, but in a way, I'm able to not need her as much.
Not so, he became independent.
100%. So Don't Stop, which has been in my head, weirdly, I don't know why, this specific song is just in my head, was written by Christine McVie, and oddly enough, it became Bill Clinton's favorite song.
That's so random.
And he used it on the campaign trail while campaigning for president.
Every time I hear the Don't Stop, though, like, that's not what goes to my head. What goes to my head is Don't Stop Believing.
Oh.
Like, every time I hear Don't Stop, it's just because it's been so overplayed and so much, like, that song especially. So.
Yeah. The background vocals, interesting fact, on this song were done by just random people who happened to be working in the studio. They all gathered around a mic, and the background vocals are them. So it's pretty interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah. So now Go Your Own Way. According to Stevie, this song is the antithesis of Dreams. So like I said, Dreams is very positive, optimistic that everything would be okay, and Dreams is kind of Lindsay's way of saying, like, screw you to Stevie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very negative, she says, and it was just a negative outlook on the band's future, and it was like, go your own way, like, go do your singles, go do this, go be by yourself, like, we don't need you.
Yeah, it's completely the opposite of what Dreams was.
It's a very negative outlook, whereas Dreams is a very positive outlook. Songbird, which was written by Christine McVie, was recorded in Zellerbach Hall in order to give it a certain ambiance. And this song is obviously Christine at a piano singing by herself. And it was actually one of the sound engineers' idea to have it recorded at a hall, because he had recorded Joni Mitchell, one of her albums, in a certain hall, and just the sound of the audience and the room and everything, it gave it a certain sound, and he was like, this specific song, we need it to be in a hall, and we need it to have a certain ambiance.
Yeah.
So, Christine said that the song was about nobody and everybody, and was almost like a little prayer. It's a very emotional song if you actually listen to the lyrics.
I like that song a lot. Like, it's definitely one of those ones that I play if, like, sad times.
And actually, funny enough, you said sad times. Every time it was played, it was so emotional that Mick and John would, like, sob backstage.
Really?
So when eventually they would break up and come back together, they were like, can you please play Songbird? And then Christine was like, but I don't want to cry anymore. And they were like, you cried too? We all cried.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so it's a very emotional song, but it's a very beautiful song. And Christine wrote it. So I'm going to skip the chain because I kind of want to do that at the end because it's very...
That song's just so
iconic.
Popular.
So we're just going to come back to that. And the next one is You Make Love and Fun, which is by Christine McVie. And she took the lead on the song and basically had it done before the band actually came together. Lindsay and Christine became very close during the creation of the song, and they felt as though their sounds meshed rather well together. And Christine reveals that this song was about her current boyfriend after she divorced John McVie, and he was actually a lighting director for the band, so he was not allowed, like, in the room, and it was very awkward for her to, like, be with the new boyfriend, but also have her ex-husband in the studio.
That's the hard part about that. Like, how, I don't even feel bad for the people that broke up. I feel bad for the newbies coming into this.
The people around them.
The ones that she was gonna, like, if you were ever to get in another relationship and bring them to the studio to watch, but your ex is there, I'd feel bad for them.
Yeah, 100%. So she kind of said this was a way to gush about her new relationship, even though she had to work with her ex-husband. So
awkwardness.
Next is Secondhand News, and it has a very Irish-Scottish kind of funk to it.
It does.
And it's just a very fun song, and Lindsey Buckingham took the lead on that. There wasn't really much said about it in the documentary, but it's a very fun song, upbeat song.
Very folky.
Yeah, very folky. And they said that it just meshed well with the soundtrack on the album. So next is Oh Daddy.
We love that. That's the slogan for that. We're looking for that.
It was written by Christine, and it was actually about Mick. It was about, it talks about how he dealt with fame as well as being a husband and a father. So not what you're thinking, Madison. Get your head out of the gutter.
No, but you can still, it means a different thing for everybody.
If you could see my face, if you're listening, if you could see my face. Oh, man. Next is Gold Dust Woman, which we actually talked about in last week's episode, so if you haven't...
It's about cocaine.
Well...
It's speculated about cocaine.
No, she in this documentary, she flat out said, and I have the quote, hold on 1 second. Gold Dust Woman was a little bit about drugs. It was about keeping going. It was about cocaine. Since I haven't done any cocaine since 1986, I can talk about it now. The whole rock and roll life was very heavy. Being in Fleetwood Mac was like being in the army.
Yeah, I put that in there last week, that quote.
If you missed it last week, you should probably go back and listen to it. But yeah, she...
Even the silver spoon part as well.
Yeah, take your silver spoon and dig your grave.
Yeah.
Obviously hinting at some cocaine there. But overall, she said that this is about someone in a toxic relationship and doing a lot of drugs and trying to make it in life and in her career and in just every aspect. So The Chain is a very iconic song. It's still used for things today, and it's just such like a great, like, energetic, upbeat, pump up song. Oh, it's just amazing. So actually, the guitar riff at the end was written before everything else in the song. So they kind of worked backwards. John had written the bass guitar, which occurs at the end, and Stevie gave the lyrics and the beginning lick of the guitar, which was actually from a song called Lola My Love, which was on the Buckingham Nicks album. And they all say that this song is the only reason the band lasted. It gave them longevity, it gave them kind of a legacy. Like, everyone knows when you hear The Chain, you just go insane.
No, definitely. Like, I literally was dancing to that last night cooking chicken parmesan. I was blasting it, and my dad even loves it. We go and we dance together, and I remember even dancing with my papa to this song, my grandfather. We just dance and go like this and just shake it crazy and go flying and wail the hands and do the Stevie twirl and just everything. It's one of those songs. And even my boyfriend as well, his band covered this. I think it's like Three Doors Down or some, I forget what his band is, but it's like a metal band, but they turned it into like something else because everybody just loves the beat of it. Everybody loves the drums and like the guitar, and it's just everything together in that song comes complete.
It's definitely one of those moments I think songwriters, song engineers have where it's just like, kind of like Woodstock. It's the magic of that studio. It's the magic of the people in that room and the talent of people in that room. And it just comes together in a special way and creates something that's so iconic, so long-lasting, so amazing.
Oh, it wasn't 3 Doors Down. It was 3 Days Grace.
3 Days Grace.
That was it. That was it. The metal band, but not even close to the icon that this one was.
No, definitely not.
But still, everybody just loves it. It's just such an iconic song, and just...
I think whenever someone thinks of Fleetwood Mac, definitely The Chain is probably one of the first songs.
That or Dreams.
Yeah. It's a very amazing song. Yay! That's all you can say, like, good job. So, a little bit about the making of the album. During creating Rumors, Christine and Stevie became very close. They even rented 2 condos in the same building. And they kind of, like, relied on each other. They were very close, and they kind of said in the documentary that, like, they were the only other person that would know how the other one is feeling, because they're kind of going through the same thing. They're having to see their exes every day. They're having to...
It's that girl bond.
Yeah, it's definitely like a sister bond, and you wouldn't think that they would be that close, especially, like, because one sleeps with the other one, and you wouldn't think, but in a weird way, that kind of brought them closer and solidified their bond. The guys of the band lived in a house that was on the same lot as the studio, and they admit to doing a lot of stupid things that were deemed normal back in the day. So a lot of drugs. A lot of girls, a lot of just stupid things that
Rock and roll partying.
Yeah, 100%. They were like, yeah, we were dumb kids, and we should have not done half the stuff that we did, but it was normal at the time, and it was the 60s and 70s, and it was the hippie movement, and a lot of stuff like that. So the music that was coming from these really hard times is what kept the band going. And they all kind of don't regret it. The only regret that Mick Fleetwood has was that he didn't spend enough fatherly time with his children as they were growing up.
And it's sad. A lot of rock stars say that afterwards, that honestly, yes, the music counts, but then at the same time, I just missed my whole kid's life.
Back then, this is kind of like a fun, kind of stressful fact, actually. So back then, everything was recorded through analog. I think that's what they called it. So you can obviously tell I'm a Gen Z or millennial. I don't even know what it's called. But as time goes on, and I could be explaining this like completely wrong, so please correct me if you know. But as time goes on, the higher frequency on the recording system begins to fade out. And you don't hear it right away, but it would become very noticeable. So the band began to notice that something sounded off, and they couldn't exactly tell like what it was until it became so bad that they had to scrap like almost everything that they had recorded live.
Oh my god.
So they would have to transfer all the vocals and all the instrumentals to a new master track, while the drums were the only thing that were salvageable.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and one of the sound engineers eventually had to listen to both of the tracks, so like the vocals and the instrumental in one ear and then the drums in the other, and he had to manually sync them up and then unsync and fix, and it took 14 hours.
Oh my goodness. Like, yeah, that would take a long time, and that would be such high pressure stress on you, because you have to get it out at certain deadlines. You need to hit them, or you're gonna financially go in debt.
And they already were taking a long time. They set a precedent for having a year to make an album, which was not normal at the time.
Yeah.
So imagine like hearing that all your live recordings had to be scrapped.
And reboot it.
Oh, that sounds so stressful.
It is stressful, oh my god.
Yeah, so, but he did a great job, and Rumors was created. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the band breaking up and people going solo.
So after Rumors, the band would eventually just completely fall apart. But then kind of get back together, but kind of not, and then get back together. It was very messy. It was a mess. It was definitely a mess. So after Rumors was created, they came out with the entitled Tusk, and then each band member would kind of go on and have these solo careers. Stevie being the most, I guess, reputable successful one afterwards. So in 81, Nyx released a song with Tom Petty and Henley. And the song was titled Belladonna. And Tom and her made, I think, 2 more songs after that as well. And she kind of got that taste
of freedom.
Yeah, of freedom of the solo career, because her song actually reached the #1 song on the Billboard, as well as her album that she later released as well reached #1. So she kind of got that taste. I can do this on my own. I can be a solo artist. I don't need Fleetwood, you know?
And I can kind of have more creative control. Like, I can control how long I want my songs. I can control what goes on the album, what doesn't. Just more control overall.
So Lindsay also would have a song named Trouble, and that one also got on the top 10 as well. So they both got, like, successful songs, but obviously Stevie's kind of led her to more successful songs, not just a one-hit wonder. And ooh, hint hint. So anyways, the album featured her hit song Edge of 17 and Leather and Lace. And I love Edge of 17. I actually have the record. I don't know where it is here, but it's somewhere in this room. And I have the original. OG. But anyways, that song was very successful, and I do love that song a lot as well. As her later career went, then she did a duet with Tom Petty, and the song was called Stop Dragging My Heart Around.
Yep.
That one song is so cool. I love that song so much. It's got like a nice kind of rhythm to it, and when you get up, I want to dance as well to that song.
Yeah. She had a talent of making those songs. She had a talent of making very emotional songs, but also songs that just, like, you can't sit and listen to. You have to kind of dance to it.
So the band came back together and released Mirage. I don't really like this era of Fleetwood Mac. I'm not very fond of, but definitely the original sound was way better than. I don't think they ever got that back. Like you know, like the Rumors album was just so iconic, but at the same time, I'm not a big fan of this kind of 80s era of Fleetwood. So Stevie went on to release another album titled Wild Heart in 83. After this album was released, Stevie's best friend Robin was actually diagnosed with leukemia. But she passed away, and Stevie was kind of so heart-stricken because of this. She lost her best friend. Other than the people that she was in Fleetwood with, she had this like kind of side friend, but it was like her best friend ever.
Like a sister.
Like a sister, literally. So Robin's ex-husband, Kim Anderson, actually formed a relationship with Stevie, and they got married 3 months after Robin's death.
And Maddie forgot to mention that the reason Robin had passed away was because she got pregnant and did not want to continue with treatment because it would hurt the baby, and she wanted to have something left behind of her.
Yeah, because of the leukemia, she had to get treatments done, but she didn't want to do that because she didn't think the radiation would be good for the baby as well. So then why Stevie married Kim was because of the baby. Matthew, his name was. And Stevie wanted to kind of take on this mother role because she felt so bad that he wasn't going to have Robin in the life. And just because of all the sadness, she also felt bad for Kim as well because he lost his wife and everything. And so she took on this kind of role, but she said that every time she came into the nursery, she would see the cradle rocking back and forth. And she would think, Robin is here. Robin's taking care of her baby.
She's watching over. She's kind of being like a guardian angel figure.
Yeah, definitely. So then she came in one night and it wasn't rocking anymore. And then she thought, Robin has finally left. She has finally moved on from this, moved on to I guess you could say, in the light. And she's not needed anymore. And she's not needed anymore, but Stevie's not needed anymore. And she doesn't have to be with Kim anymore. She doesn't have to. So that night, she actually told Kim that she wants a divorce. She said, I'm not in love with you. You're not in love with me. We're only here because of Robin and the child. And we only got married because of that. And I don't think that this is healthy. This is not needed. So she kind of ended it off with a divorce and said that I never going to get married again. I'm never going to have kids again because my career needs to come first, not my kids. And I can't rely on that kind of duty of being married and being a wife and being a mother.
Yeah, and I think when she saw that the cradle had stopped rocking, she realized, like, she had doubts of, like, maybe I shouldn't be married to him. Maybe I shouldn't, like, be trying to not replace her, but kind of. And when she finally saw that the cradle wasn't rocking anymore, she was like, I don't know if she's mad at me. Like, I don't know, like, is this the right thing to do? And then when she saw that it had stopped rocking, it was kind of like, yeah, I can't do this.
This is not my life for me.
No, she wouldn't want it.
No.
She wouldn't want me to have this life. She would obviously want me to, like, check in on them and see how they're doing, but I can't be the mother figure. And like Maddie said, she would go on and be like, I'm never getting married again. I'm never having children. My destiny is music.
Yes. So then after this happened, Nyx released an album titled Rock a Little in 85. But this album was like a complete, like, it wasn't completely terrible, but it was just not even the amount of success that her previous solo albums were and her, obviously, Fleetwood Mac album. It didn't even live up to the legacy of those. So after this kind of happened, she decided to kind of do another like duo with Fleetwood, and she the McVie
McVie's.
Yeah, McVie's, sorry. McVie's, Nick's, and Buckingham would come together and create Tango in the Night, the last album that Buckingham was even a part of until a couple years later.
Yeah.
And after this, Lindsay would leave the band in 87. Then Stevie, after this kind of fallout, and she realized that her solo career wasn't as a success as she thought it would be.
And she didn't like, I think maybe the music that she was putting out wasn't like she thought was the best music that she could put out.
Mm-hmm. I don't think that either, and I think that she kind of spiraled into, well, the whole time they were doing cocaine and stuff as well, but it kind of worsened during this time, like this hardship, and she began having like such a hard drug problem and alcohol problem as well, and she developed a severe like cocaine addiction to the point where her nasal cavity actually had a hole in it from just snorting so much cocaine, and it couldn't take it anymore. Yeah. So she went into rehab for, I believe it was 28 days.
Good for her.
Yeah, and she got cleaned up. But one of her friends recommended, because she's going through this kind of withdrawal symptoms, that she take this tranquilizer kind of drug. Yeah.
Oh my god.
We love that. So she kind of took this tranquilizer, and she got addicted to the tranquilizers now. So then she got like addicted to those, and then she started noticing like her body changing because of the tranquilizers as well, getting like gaining more weight and everything. And that was throughout the late 80s to early 90s until I believe 93. And after Buckingham left Fleetwood Mac, Fleetwood released The Other Side of the Mirror in 89, and Behind the Mask in 90, and Time Space in 91.
Wow.
Yeah, so they released a couple albums, I believe it was albums or songs. Albums. It was albums. But not even to the amount of success again without Buckingham as well.
Yeah, it's definitely... It may be hard to like work all together with exes and just odd ends and just awkwardness. Mm-hmm. But it was definitely like they needed everyone there in order to recreate that magic, that touch of Fleetwood Mac.
They needed everyone, yeah, honestly. They needed, even Stevie said without Buckingham, she felt her songs weren't even close to the amount of like goodness and richness that they could have been without his magic touch.
Yeah.
And him leaving definitely had a major negative impact on the band. But now we're going to get to how they got back together and their careers now.
So they kind of got back together and they kind of didn't. It's a very weird kind of pathway that the band did. But Stevie would go into detox in 93. And the core band members, which was Fleetwood, the McVies, Buckingham, and Nick's, would actually come back together to perform Don't Stop at Bill Clinton's presidential inauguration in 1993.
Because he loved it so much.
Yeah, he actually, like, in the documentary that I watched, when the song first came out, obviously Clinton wasn't nothing to do with politics, but in that moment when the song came out, he decided that if I were to ever run and win the presidency, that would be my song.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, so Stevie was very honored that was the song that he picked. After seeing how well they performed in 1993, the band would come together again, all of them actually, and they would record the album The Dance, which came out in 1997. Fleetwood Mac was then inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1998. The 2003 Say You Will album brought back together Fleetwood, John McVie, Buckingham, and Nick's for their first time in the studio in 16 years, but Christine McVie did not rejoin the band until 2014, and her songwriting skills were absolutely incredible, so they were definitely missed on that album. Mm-hmm. And you could definitely tell that she wasn't a part of it, because just the emotional lyrics and just the
emotional substance, I guess.
The substance, yes, thank you. The substance was missing. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I guess when a band member leaves, it just isn't the same.
It's not. And just the magic of everybody working together, you don't realize how many people and how many different things go into this and how many things click properly like a puzzle piece. It's
so true. Just like, you don't realize how many people it takes to put together an album. Like, I saw pictures of them once they had finished Rumors and Sausalito, and just how many people it took to put this, like, one thing together. It's insane. So after that, the band would kind of do some shows on and off. But in 2019, Stevie Nicks would be the first female artist to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame twice. Once with Fleetwood Mac and once for her solo work. And she was inducted by the king himself, Harry Styles, and the two of them performed Stop Dragging My Heart Around, which was the Nicks-Tom Petty duet that we talked about earlier. And she has also performed with Styles in a couple of his concerts, but more recently in his Fine Line concert, which he played his whole album on December 13th in 2019.
I love their kind of connection that they have together. It's so cute. It's very like a mother and son kind of.
Yeah, and it's just like, if you watch him the first time he performed with Stevie Nicks, he's literally like, I'm shitting myself. Like, you are my idol. You are. And he actually, they sang Landslide.
Yeah.
And he starts crying because it's like his idol, right? Like, when he was talking about her in his induction speech, he said, like, Fleetwood Mac was such a big part of his family, and, like, he would be like, oh, I'm pulling a Stevie Nicks, like, I'm a badass. Like, I totally Stevie Nicks that. He said his mom used to say all the time. So I think for Stevie, it kind of helped her see how much of an impact that she had on millions of people just by having Harry Styles be like, you changed my life, and you influenced my music. And they would hang out all the time, and it's an odd relationship. Like, you wouldn't think that they would hang out.
Yeah.
But it kind of makes sense, too.
It does make sense, because he's kind of got that folky vibe to his, like, songs. Rock folk.
Hippie, spiritual, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you wouldn't think they would be friends, but they were. And
I think Landslide makes anybody cry, honestly.
Oh.
That song just is so emotional.
Yeah, it's a beautiful song, and obviously, I mean, if I could perform with Stevie Nicks, I think I would cry, too.
Yeah, same.
I'd be like, oh my God, like,
I know.
She's right there. That's insane.
I know. So now that we kind of covered everything of Fleetwood Mac, there were definitely conspiracy theories of this group, and the one that was kind of the most prominent was that Stevie Nicks was a witch.
A witch.
And this one kind of hasn't still died.
Yeah, it's. I think it's because she hasn't confirmed or denied it.
Well, yeah, but during the time she was denying it so heavily, but then she does things like, well, we're going to get into that, but does shows that kind of resemble witch power and witchcraft and everything. So she kind of does witchcraft and everything, like just the kind of resemblance of it.
Yeah.
So in 1976 with the hit song Rhiannon, so good. I love that song so much, but it has so much history. So it was actually written by Stevie Nicks, and she kind of said in a lot of her concerts that it was a song about a witch. And every time she would announce the song, like introduce it, she would say that. And this kind of led to the speculation that Stevie was into witchcraft and wizardry and all that kind of spooky kind of stuff. And especially because people started noticing her wardrobe was very black, very kind of swing, like the shawls and everything as well. Kind of that stereotypical witchy vibe that she had.
And she, like, would wear crystals or have, like, the moon pendant, which is actually really important to, like, witchcraft, I guess. And crystals are obviously pretty important. She was one of the first people to kind of come out with that and just be so open open and not open with the spirituality.
Yeah, definitely. And she kind of like resembled the stereotypical witch with even her hair. Like, you know how she used to crimp it and stuff as well, and like have it like kind of, a lot of witches would have it like kind of frizzy and out and movies and stuff. More
natural looking.
Yeah,
because they're very like earth and connected with Mother Earth and all that stuff.
So after that song was released, that I said before, the speculation kind of came out, and Stevie would just deny these accusations. Like, even one of the quotes I put in her Instagram was, she said, "I'm not a witch, I just kind of like Halloween and that kind of vibe, and I thought that blondes would look skinnier and black," which is kind of hilarious because that's just Stevie.
Or just like, Stevie, are you sure? Are you really? That's just it? That's your reasoning?
Yeah, and she did a couple times in interviews. She's like, it's just so stupid. People think that I'm a witch. Like, I just don't see where it comes from. But then in 2013, Nicks actually appeared on American Horror Story, which was actually season 3. entitled Coven, which was all about witches.
Mm-hmm.
Which was all about witches.
Which was all about witches.
Yeah, so it was all about witches, and the character Misty Day was idolizing Stevie Nicks. She would always dance into the song Rhiannon, and Nicks actually came on and performed that song with her, and she danced, and she twirled, and she did the famous Stevie twirl, where she kind of like twirls around and stuff with holding her shawl. And she actually performed, like, kept practicing that. Her name was Lily Ray, who plays Misty Day. And she would practice that for like 14 hours or something. That twirl, that iconic twirl, just kept practicing it to make it look so witchy and vibes, right?
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy that she did that.
I mean, if you're working with Stevie, it has to be perfect,
It has
right?
to be mint. So Stevie also was very, as we said before, friends with Harry Styles. And in a Howard Stern interview, Harry Styles actually said that he called her girlfriends witches of the night or something.
Yeah, he was like, these women, they stay up all hours of the night, like 3 a.m. is their prime time. They're nocturnal, and like, and Howard Stern kind of egged him on and was like, they're witches, eh? And he's like, yeah, they're witches. Like,
the witch coven, I think Howard's like referred to it as.
Yeah, the coven, the women that follow her around. Mm-hmm. But she definitely hasn't helped.
No, she definitely hasn't helped her situation there of being claimed that.
Yeah, and even if she is a witch, I mean, I don't think it would change anything.
No, and I think maybe back in the day when it was initially kind of put out in the 60s and 70s, there was a lot more religious people that kind of associated witchcraft with satanic kind of stuff, so that wasn't okay, but nowadays, like, nobody really kind of cares about the witchcraft.
And it's not like, if you do research about it, I've done a little bit of research about it, it's not really anything to do with Satan.
No, and a lot of people think it is, but it's not.
It's more to do with like herbs and protection and just the earth and giving thanks to the earth and the spirits and the gods. Like, I could go into depth about it, but it's definitely not satanic, and it's actually a pretty like beautiful thing, just kind of like being grateful to like your ancestors or whatever. Anyway, I'm rambling, but it's definitely nothing to do with I guess it can be, obviously.
Well, dark magic is what they think that she was connected to, not
but if you know Stevie, you know that she's like
an optimistic, positive person.
Yeah, so she's probably doing this positive, optimistic magic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyways, going into our next week, we are going to be talking about one-hit wonders.
Yes, sir.
So one-hit wonders, there's definitely tons within the 60s, 70s, and 80s that kind of just
hit major success and then just plopped. Like,
yes, like they were in their prime, and then, but there's a lot of reasons why artists didn't continue, whether that be drugs, whether that be the too big of fame getting to their head as well.
Yeah.
There's many issues, some deaths that happen as well, that people couldn't even perform anything else other than the one hit that they had.
Yeah, for sure. So that's next week's topic, but we hope that you guys enjoyed our little Halloween episode about Fleetwood Mac and Stevie Nicks. And we'd love to hear what you guys think, so follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, is there YouTube, Spotify, Facebook, all of those social media platforms. We love talking about Fleetwood Mac, and they're just an iconic band, and they definitely have a special place in my heart, and so does Stevie, being just a positive ray of light all the time. So, that's it for episode 3 of the Jukebox Honeys podcast, which is crazy. We're on episode 3. And, so thank you for listening, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week. Bye! And how could I forget? We forgot this part, but, stay rad, stay groovy, stay you! See you next week!
Bye!